Joining me live now is the Opposition Leader, Susan Lee. Opposition Leader, thank you for your time today. I spoke to your former colleague, the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, earlier, and I asked him about the Pentagon review into AUKUS. Is he concerned? He's not. What's your sense of this?
We are concerned about the Pentagon reviewing AUKUS because we're not sure of the standing that this government has with the President and with the US administration, Kieran. And I feel there's something of a bystander approach from Anthony Albanese. I want to emphasise that we do want the Prime Minister to do well. This is a Team Australia moment, and I've always said we'll support the government on Team Australia moments. But I was part of the government that delivered AUKUS, as was the previous Prime Minister for our side, Scott Morrison. So we know it's the most important strategic initiative that Australia has entered into in decades. It's critical to our security in the Indo-Pacific, an increasingly contested space, and its delivery matters a great deal. So my comment to the government is you do need to secure a meeting at the earliest opportunity with President Trump, and you do need to safeguard AUKUS for the future.
The Deputy Prime Minister had said about an hour ago on Newsday, he said that the coalition needs to take a deep breath. What do you say to him?
Well, I would say simply focus on the task at hand, which is building that relationship that I've not been confident has been built from the get-go in this second Trump administration. And it is all about the personal relationship. And I'm not suggesting that it's not there, but this does look, Kieran, as if the government has been caught somewhat flat-footed by the announcement of this review. You know, the Deputy Prime Minister was there. I assume he said he talked about AUKUS when he visited a little while ago. But at the same time, he doesn't seem to have known that this review was coming. So what all this adds up to is that level of concern I've expressed, and we want the government to do well, and of course we want AUKUS to succeed, but we can't ignore this development.
He actually said that he was briefed on it a few weeks ago, Mr Miles. He said that they've been briefed on it, they've known it was coming for a few weeks. Doesn't that show that the US is keeping Australia in the loop, and it's more procedure than anything? That's certainly what the Deputy Prime Minister clearly believes here, and Scott Morrison was of a similar view.
Well, I'm not sure, obviously, of the content of those conversations. I'm putting this in the context of the review that's been announced, seemingly out of nowhere, with what is clearly a government somewhat unprepared for the news that came from the US overnight. So I just want to encourage the government to build that relationship, and I haven't heard the Deputy Prime Minister point to a meeting that's coming up between our Prime Minister and the President. I mean, until that happens, we secure that face-to-face conversation, I don't think we will rest on this issue. It's vital that the conversations and that the relationship between our two governments. And it's not where it needs to be, in my view, just yet, Kieran, but I hope, again, I come back to this point, I hope that the government does do well. But we need to be embedded at all levels in the US administration, having those conversations continually. And the Prime Minister does need to have that face-to-face meeting. And if he can secure that this week, next week, that's a good thing.
When it comes to Donald Trump, though, Opposition Leader, do you cut the Prime Minister some slack, given what's going on now in the United States, the unrest that we're seeing across many US cities? Donald Trump has got a fair bit going on. If the meeting didn't eventuate, if he went to the G7 and was out, is it too harsh to be having a crack at Mr Albanese if he can't get that face-to-face time right now?
I think that all efforts need to be made to secure that meeting. I think that's really important. Of course, I understand the domestic implications for the President, but that also underscores, doesn't it, Kieran, that we need a strong relationship from the very beginning of the Trump administration. We need that to be in place. We need that to be up and running at all levels of the administration between them and us. And I'm not sure that that exists, and I'm not sure that the investment into that personal relationship has taken place. But I do want the government to do well with this, and this is simply important to note our concern, and we should provide the best possible opposition in holding this government to account on what is our most important national security relationship.
It is, as you said, it's a Team Australia issue when it comes to defence. I don't think you're on the same side, certainly, or you don't share the view that the government does when it comes to sanctions on the two Israeli ministers. Can I get your reaction to that? What is your view on what the government announced this week when it comes to those two members of the Netanyahu government that have been targeted in this?
Well, it's unprecedented to, as a government, take actions, sanctions on members of a democratically elected government, and it appears that Penny Wong acted unilaterally on this. But if we step back from that, I think the most important thing and the thing we all want is the ceasefire. We want peace. We want an enduring peace for the people of the region. We all want that more than ever, and the US has explained that these actions are actually counterproductive to securing that ceasefire and that peace, and the government should be paying attention to that.
What do you say to those within the government that believe this is actually the act of a friend? That's how it was put to me, that they believe that that is the view when it comes to dealing with a democracy like Israel, but saying come back from the brink when it comes to the approach of the two ministers concerned, and they want to see Israel succeed, but targeting these two ministers was seen as the best way that they could enforce or encourage that change of approach.
Well, the Magnitsky sanctions were never designed to be used in this way, but to take action against terrorist regimes and bad actors. And while in no way agreeing with the statements that have been made, of course we don't, the issue is, the broader one, Kieran, is the lasting enduring peace that we all want to see in the region and the prospects for a ceasefire, which the US is close to, we need to be close to too, because it is the one thing that can actually help the region turn the corner. And we always, when I talk about this, we come back to the issue of Hamas and their murderous intentions at this point in time, and the very important respect that we need to show any efforts to release the hostages that are still in tunnels in Gaza, and not to forget the hideous events in southern Israel on October the 7th.
But do you believe in this case the government has overstepped the mark with those sanctions?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Opposition Leader Susan Lee, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.